Hello, everybody. Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to the Teacher's Lounge, your Force of Will Now live podcast, as always, featuring myself and Ryan Miles.
Hey, that's me, everybody.
Brandan Bremont.
Hello.
And Frank Klosser. We are happy to be back. Excited to finally be using my new laptop, and it looks like my new laptop likes my webcam a little bit better, which is great. And tonight, it's Worlds Month, September. It's coming 18 days, 17 days at this point.
That's
It's going to be pretty exciting.
So we're going to be surprisingly small number of days.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I didn't really think about it. So tonight we're going to be talking about more of the cards from New Dawn Rises, specifically the structure decks. We'll hit on those kind of cards and what we think about those cards, because we didn't really touch on those last week. We're also going to talk about you guys have been doing a lot of testing and gearing up for Worlds. And just kind of the general concept of what Worlds is maybe shaping up for you guys, like experience-wise, what you're excited for, stuff like that. As well as if you've done any testing to try out for the kind of Revenge tournament, which is going to be New Frontiers, which is our first taste of what New Dawn Rises plus Rhea Cluster is going to kind of look like, and what that's been going for you. As well as there have been some rumors floating around, specifically because we haven't seen the CR yet, as to what that implicates. I don't know. And so we're gonna have, if we have some time, we'll kind of flush out and talk a little bit about what that could potentially do, or what not having the CR kind of influences in terms of testing. And and then we'll go from there with some time for some questions and answers from you guys. So I guess let's start off with general thoughts, not about card games, in coming up to Worlds. Frank, it's your first time. Ryan, this is your third time. Brandon, this is also your third trip. This is your this is your trip. So, and this is my third trip as well, but I'm going as a commentator, not a player. So I guess we can kind of all speak to what some light distortion on my end when I get a little loud. I'll turn down the gain a little bit. What you guys are looking forward to about this experience, what Worlds is going to be like, and kind of that kind of thing. So anybody can jump in to start.
I'm very excited. So Japan is very fun regardless of how Force of Will is. Obviously, you're with a bunch of people that you share a hobby with, so that's really cool. Japan's just an awesome country, especially if you're into that kind of culture, which if you're playing Force of Will, you probably are at least a little bit. So that'll be fun. And then in terms of Force of Will, format is looking to be kind of fun. We're going to get to meet a bunch of the artists that are going to be there. That's going to be cool. The player party is always a lot of fun. Getting to meet the creators of the game is always a lot of fun. So it's really just a blast all around. So at the very least, you have that to look forward to, even if you don't think the format's good. And the format's looking pretty okay anyway.
Okay. Ryan?
I'm pretty excited. So when I went the first year, I pretty much play tested the whole week that I was there, and it paid off, obviously, because I was playtesting with my brother, so he did pretty well for himself with that. And then I had a bunch of experience with the day 2 event, which worked out well. But I only went to Aki for one day, and I didn't do any the other stuff. And then last year when I went, it was literally just for the weekend, because I just started a new job, so I couldn't take off that much time. So this year I'm actually trying to do regular tourist visit, sightseeing stuff, do a bunch of fun stuff. I'm there a whole week before. Finally going to get that in, third time around. But because we still don't know what the CR is going to do to the format, a lot of the testing I've probably done so far might not be worthwhile. So hopefully we get it soon, so that I can get a lot of testing done this weekend, and then be able to enjoy my time in Japan more than just grinding Force of Will. But I really am trying to succeed in the tournament, so I might end up just playtesting a lot anyway. That's kind of what's going to happen.
Fair enough. Frank?
So I set up my extra time in Japan specifically so I couldn't accidentally use all of it up grinding Force of Will. So I'm staying I'm staying an extra week after Worlds, and I'm just gonna wander Japan as some sort of vagrant.
I am staying the week after too, Frank.
Hey, you guys can hang out.
There you go.
This will be my third trip. This is going to be kind of the weirdest trip for me. Year 1, I was kind of in the same boat as Ryan, where most of my time was spent testing. But I did get to see Aki and a couple other tiny spots. This past year, I went with my wife, and we went for 9 days, and that was super fun, heavily focused on the touristy thing. Just a side note, if you ever go to Tokyo Disney, don't eat the pizza. It's real bad. at least for people who like have a certain expectation of what pizza is, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. But this year,
you went to Japan and had pizza.
No.
I mean,
we were in
like
Disney World. We were in Disney World.
We are not going to McDonald's Japan. You are very.
Oh yeah, it's like a different experience. Like you're expecting.
I'm not going to McDonald's Japan.
No, you have to. You absolutely have to, because you
100%
have this expectation in your mind of like what McDonald's is, but there's a different country. They have their own like way of doing it, and you're just like, oh, it's worth it. Like, anything you think you know, try it in a different country.
Right. You will want to go to McDonald's in Japan. Like, trust me.
Yeah, it is. They've got some pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, I definitely don't like mayonnaise corn pizza because that's what I got.
Yeah.
That was on it. Anyways, I did not know. It's gross. Anyway, so this year is, I kind of joke about it being like a hell trip in the sense that it is a casual weekend in Japan where I leave for Japan the Thursday before Worlds. I arrive in Japan 30 minutes into the autograph session for the artists and get to the hotel like an hour and a half before the player party on Friday. Player party on Friday, tournament Saturday, tournament Sunday, fly home Monday afternoon.
Oh, you're doing the just grind it out weekend kind of thing?
I mean, I also have a new job, Ryan, so I'm in the same boat that you've had last year. I mean, it's still going to be fine because ultimately I don't have the stress of actually having to care about playtesting. This year, I just get to watch all of you guys play Force of Will and then be really, really angry when none of you want to play Force of Will with me after a long day of playing Force of Will.
Oh no, I'm all about Force
You say that, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure I played Force of Will with you at the end of every GP we've been at the same place at.
Frank and Brandon and Ryan are my saving graces when it comes to that. Most of the time when I go to GPs, it's been like, no, I'm super tired, man. I don't want to play. And I'm like, I've been watching people play Force of Will for 9 hours. I want to play games. So I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for being part of the spectacle from the opposite end, from the like behind the scenes running the show side rather than being a player. I'm really happy to be working with the Force of Will team and having the opportunity to like help put on the show in that way, as well as to all the people who are viewing. Just a heads up, it will be streamed on the official Force of Will TCG Japan Twitch. It's not going to be on this channel. I'll be helping run it that way. But it's kind of, since I started doing content, it's kind of been a dream to like get to go do live streaming, to go do the coverage of Worlds, and now like I get to go do it. So like that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about it.
So you get to cover the inevitable Worlds Finals rematch between Brandon and I to bookend the season.
I mean, as long as it's not, I'm not going to fuel any country versus country hate right now.
That's for next week.
That's for
Oh, it'll come.
What is it? This is a country versus country podcast now.
Oh yeah.
It's not a show.
Come on, just make up a word. Let's go. This is a countryist podcast now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh god, that sounded real bad.
So I'm pretty excited. I'm also, while it is very exciting, I think, to know that the first format is going to be block only, block constructed, or cluster constructed or whatever. I am kind of weirdly hoping that top 8 like finishes really quick, while the like revenge tournament is going on, because I would absolutely love to put like the last 3 rounds of the revenge tournament where it's New Frontiers on stream. So it's been like, cool, you've been watching what cluster looks like, now let's look at what New Frontiers is shaping up to be. I think that would absolutely be awesome to be able to show that off too, and to put the finals of the losers tournament on stream too, because I also think those people are well deserving of getting some screen time and showing us.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. I'll be happy to represent America in the finals of the revenge tournament.
You got to get there, buddy. I believe in you, but you got to get there.
Wait, so far we can do it. I'm the best loser in the goddamn world.
So I like.
Yeah.
Like won't even play day 2 because I have tested like absolutely 0 New Frontiers after this class.
I got a couple games.
So focused on block.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. Overall, I think it's going to be really awesome. I'm really glad that the artists are coming back. I'm really glad that they're doing bingo again at the end of day 2.
Oh, same.
Yeah. Prizes. Yeah. I know it's super silly, but it's a lot of fun.
None of you explained this bingo to me yet.
We're literally just playing bingo, Frank. It's literally just playing bingo. Did you get a bingo? Get a prize. Like,
It's like not Force Will bingo. It's like A, B, C, D, E.
Like actual bingo.
50 numbers, and then if you make a bingo,
I don't understand why you're that excited.
Imagine, okay. Imagine this as a prize panel of stuff for the bingo, right? Every artist there making about 2 to 3 one-of-a-kind art panels, hand-drawn that weekend for bingo. Force of Will banners, Force of Will prize cards that they gave out, Force of Will like exclusive playmats, all kinds of crazy stuff, all thrown into this prize pool that you just get for just having fun. Also, side note, there definitely were players that were throwing money around. Like, there was definitely some gambling going on some certain tables for certain
I might
bingos.
just be the wrong type of person, but I'm like, that's a really sweet prize pot, but that's just like pure gambling to get it. That has
it's free to participate. That's the fun. It's free to participate.
I'll definitely be there. I'm going to be there, but like, I have a hard time getting excited about something I have no control over the outcome of.
That's where the fun comes in.
Sometimes it's just fun to like gamble, you know. It's just like
it really isn't. Like, so I said I'm the wrong kind of person. Just the idea of gambling is strictly unenthusing.
Putting you in on tables.
We're gonna play a skill-intensive game for like 2 straight days. It's fun to just sit back and just like have no control.
It is actually really nice to just be like, let it take me. Let what happens takes me.
You're just thinking about all the die rolls you lost on day 1, and you just get a sweet ass prize, and you're like, that's where my luck went. All right, cool. Couldn't have used it in the World Championship, but at least I got a freaking reflect banner or something, right?
So, let's talk the main tournament. Let's talk cluster. You guys have been doing a lot of playtesting. We have the full set now. We've had the full set for just over a week now, like a week and 2 days. Of really knowing everything. What has been your experience up to this point? Obviously recognizing that Hanzo Machines is a deck, but we'll talk about that by prefacing, like I said before, we don't 100% know what the CR is at this point, meaning that there are some rumors flying around about how runes could potentially what runes could be used in different ways with what rulers potentially that might change. We're not sure. It's just kind of guesstimation. Bye, Frank.
I was wondering whose doorbell
so
that was.
Let me just preface this whole conversation by that there's still some mystery in terms of the CR. But beyond that, what is cluster like? How is cluster feeling for you guys? What have been your experiences? Have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed the new cards? Kind of that kind of stuff.
Can I steal initiative again? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, you have priority. Go ahead.
You got it first. I'm so sorry. But
I love going last, so.
This whole conversation needs to be prefaced by we built Hanzo Machines. It's absolutely tier 0 unbeatable. And then Jeff made a comment to the effect of that Hanzo Machines wasn't going to work for some reason. And assuming Jeff isn't just completely full of it, which I don't think he is, something stops that deck from being viable. I think that the most respectable theory for that is that runes are going to be color locked to the ruler. That's completely conjecture. Don't take that and run with it. But a lot of the players that are going to Worlds have begun testing under the assumption that Hanzo Machines isn't a deck. And when Hanzo Machines isn't a deck, it gets a lot more interesting. And it isn't Hanzo Machines isn't a deck to be talked about. So I think from here out, even though it's a bit of a, I think we are just going to pretend that Hanzo Machines is not a deck for like what we're talking about.
Frank, would you mind muting your microphone while you eat? Thanks, bud. And
so, with that said, with Hanzo Machines not being a deck, I think that the decks that are kind of on the table are Arthur/Loki Machines, Brunhild White, Lucifer Black, and then like some form of Control Isis. Control being a little bit of a weird word for it, but like an Isis that uses the rune deck to control the enemy minions and then eventually either flip Isis or just like slam back-to-back Anubises and then kind of like do stuff. Like control is kind of a weird word for it, but I think it's as close to like control as the format gets without being like Lucifer discard.
So just real quick before we speak into it, Butterbob is asking kind of what Hanzo Machines does, and to preface that, it's a machine deck. It's a machine deck that just has Hanzo, and the main reason why you're running Hanzo is for his Master Rune, and the whole purpose is that you play this insanely consistent machine deck that sticks a Lancelot, and Lancelot is just such far and away beyond an incredibly strong card, and then when coupled with the fact that Hanzo gets a free Master Rune that is a cancel, means that the ways that you would get around machines are primarily all rune deck based, and so the one way that Hanzo just goes, well, okay, stop it, and so you're literally just committing to the fact that you're not going to have a J ruler because you're playing monocolor stones, just to be able to have Hanzo as a protection piece, just so that your opponent can't deal with Lancelot, and Lancelot can continue to just run train. Without Hanzo, without that Master Rune, if it was, again, purely conjecture that we would have some kind of limitation that stops Hanzo machines from being a deck, there is a lot of stuff in the other deck colors, in the other archetypes, that does have a way to deal with machines, provided they don't have this free protection that comes with Hanzo. Don't get me wrong, machines is still very strong, but they have a lot more vulnerability than they did have when Hanzo was just like, nope. So that's kind of what we're prefacing with, like, the testing going as if Hanzo Machines isn't deck. We don't know why it isn't a deck. We don't know if it 100% isn't going to be a deck. We ultimately don't know. But I think you're smart, Brandon, and I'm assuming that Frank and Ryan, you guys are doing the same things of testing as if Hanzo Machines isn't actually a deck. What does the format look like at that point? Yeah. So I think that's really very smart, especially as we get into this September 17 days kind of thing. But that's kind of the purpose of why Hanzo Machines has such strength, if that answers your question. So
yeah, just to like add on to that, like Hanzo Machines is just the deck to play if it is a deck. There's like, you just can't beat it. Like all of the good removal in every other deck except for like black with Life Severing Blade like is a rune. And because blue, like the balance for blue was like, here's all these really good resonators and all these really good synergies, and then your J rulers just suck. Like the blue rulers just are far and away worse than the other rulers. And compared to their like stats, their mass runes, or flip, like all of them is just bad compared to the rulers. But when they get to play Hanzo, they get to bypass that completely, and suddenly they just have a ruler that says 0 mana cancel like a kill spell. So then you get to play your degenerate 1-drop like Vivian or Donut Drone. You get to play your degenerate 2-drops or 2 more 1-drops, and then you get to play Lancelot on 3. And like your opponent has to commit mana to try and kill your board, which then you don't have to commit mana to cancel. And then you get to continue to load onto the board and just get so much damage in before they can actually have a chance to do anything. And because of like Gawain and just like Percival Merlin, like they always have a chance to just lethal you out of nowhere. They always have a chance to just like get back into the game with card advantage because of like scrap and build, because of Merlin, just like a whole bunch of stuff. So when you can't kill their board like efficiently at all because of the Master Rune, it just puts them like way too far ahead. But without the Master Rune, like they get wiped and then they rebuild, and they get wiped and they rebuild. They can only do that so many times, so it's a little bit easier without it's a lot easier without Hanzo in the way.
So what's been your experience then in playing with the new cards? Have you enjoyed playing with the new cards, imagining if Hanzo Machines is in the deck? Like, what has been your overall take of New Valhalla, what the company's kind of trying to go for with this new set?
So the blue deck kind of builds itself, and that's a good thing because it's easy to find and like break immediately, but it also just like, there are like approximately 40 good blue cards, and you need to also, like, that's all you get to do is just like look at like the extra 4 cards that come in and out of the deck. So the deck is always doing the same thing. Like, you're never worried about going into a blue matchup and be like, what tech is this guy going to have? Like, it's just the same. Like, it's so hard to like have any variation there, I think. So it's really easy to like play test against it and figure out what works and what doesn't. I think like black has a pretty good time dealing with it because of the rune deck. There's just so much removal. Black Rosario kills 2 things. And then there's just like the discard to get Lancelots early. And again, like the blue deck only has 4 Lancelots, and it will consistently see 4 Lancelots because it can draw Lancelot, it can play Merlin, or it can scrap and build into it, all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, there's no way they're getting them back. So there's only 4 Lancelots you have to deal with. And if you can do that, the deck just kind of becomes this go wide, like beatdown deck. But if you can stick like a Shahazam, what the heck it's called, I don't know, the 14/14 flyer, like they just don't get over that. So there are ways to like, and also Belial like board wipes. You're worried about like the Erendite, but like black can definitely do it. It's just a matter of like how quickly blue goes and how quickly black can remove stuff. And then like white has been testing pretty well for me actually. Like it has had a 3-mana board wipe, so you just, Machines always has to play around the 3-mana board wipe, and then there's a lot of cool stuff that happens on the chase with like maintenance and stuff. Green has like absolutely nothing to do against Machines, and like green actually does pretty well against other decks, but it just cannot, like there's just nothing that kills Lancelot. There's like a 3-mana sorcery speed deal 8 that's just like abysmal to play and then just feels bad all the time because it only kills Lancelot, and like the board that he buffed is still there, and it's just
8 damage is like sometimes not even enough.
Exactly.
Often to kill
because yeah, you have like the Master Rune to cancel maintenance, but like it's still just abysmal. And then like you just don't end the game fast
one
enough.
Sky round in Lancelot's too big.
Yeah. And then red has been doing well. Like I feel like red can beat like everything. It's just like red actually has like the most playable cards for some reason. I feel like red actually has a lot of different ways it can go, and I haven't figured out which one I like the best yet. So like without Hanzo, it feels a bit more open. I still feel like Machines are going to be incredibly strong, and like kind of the deck to build around. I'm just curious to see like what other players are figuring out. Like, oh, I'm gonna play this black deck because I know I can beat machines, or oh, I'm gonna play this white deck because I can know beat machines. But then like, okay, well, who wins between black and white? Okay, who wins between black and red? That kind of thing. So interesting to see. I've only had a couple days testing like without Hanzo now, so I need to do a bit more. But yeah.
Okay. Frank?
It's really cool.
Oh, go ahead.
No, never mind. Go ahead, Frank.
Frank.
I have not had quite as much testing as these two gentlemen, but I do. If machines like Hanzo machines isn't a deck, I do really like white. I like the things I've heard about black. I just haven't gotten around to testing it yet. And I've also really liked red. Like it has a lot of burn, and it has a lot of ability to just like consistently have closing damage. And so from there, it's just like, is the deck around it going to be like fast enough or tempo enough like to be able to stick it out? I'm not certain yet, but at least I've liked it some so far. And then in addition to what he was saying about, you know, a 3-mana board wipe in white, you also have just a 2-mana kill any J ruler or resonator. And so like that's sort of where it gets really tricky to play against as a deck that wants to play to the field, is that if you play too small, you won't get got by the board wipe, but then you're just going to get tempoed out by a single target kill spell. But if you go too wide, then you just get board wiped, and you're suddenly covered after the wipe by this single target kill spell.
Yeah,
I do just want to like add on to that, because that single target burn spell gains you life every time you cast it, so your life total gets super high, so machines like has to just tap all their dudes into you because your life total is like 60, 70 plus, and then you get Balmung, and then you just kill their entire board. Like, you have so many ways
burn
to do
spell is that?
So he's thinking of the Valkyrie one that does damage equal to your highest attack.
Sure,
yeah,
right? Sure.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. And I was thinking of just from the rune deck's perspective, I was just thinking of Runehild's Wrath, the 2-mana destroy any tapped thingamabob.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you have access to both, and it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's very cool that it's as open as it seems to be with like this many decks. I know like when Hanzo Machines was a thing, there was a lot of complaint going around about how like insanely broken it was. And even now, after Hanzo Machines is gone, I still think Machines is probably the best deck, but it's very cool that we have this much discussion over it. Ryan said that he thinks red can beat everything. I have not experienced that success with red at all, and so it's very cool that we that kind of difference seems to exist.
I guess like I should preface that, like, if I built a red deck 40 cards to build machines, I think I could beat machines. And then if I built a red deck 40 cards to beat black, I think I could beat black. But those 40 card decks would be like many cards,
hyper focused,
perhaps more than the 15 that you would need in a sideboard. Like they just would have very drastically different strategies.
So like red has the capability to be this hyper focused kill answer, but it can't necessarily be a kill all answer.
Okay, and actually what I think, and I don't know if Ryan's going to agree with this or not.
I might.
What you're saying is not true of the main deck. It's the rune deck that changes dramatically, right? Because like
I would agree with that. Yes.
A red rune deck that beats machines and a red rune deck that beats everything else, and those are not the same rune deck.
That is correct.
And that definitely also gets into like the unknown of the CR coming out. If our rune deck, like one of the rumors flying around has been that you can't sideboard from your rune deck, and if that is true, then your red gets a lot less narrow.
Yeah.
A lot of things change. That actually, like, it sounds like a small thing, but I think that if that was the case and like the rune deck just is not applicable to sideboard, that changes a lot, because like the machines wants to side bunch of runes too.
Oh, yeah.
They really do. Yeah.
I think each deck I've had so far has been a minimum of 5 sideboard runes, just like for switching out.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. Like when we were talking about runes as a general, right? 2, 2, 2, 3, 1, right? We talked about that combination, and then we talked about how, like, for darkness, your 3 divinity rune was you could pick this, and then if you wasn't wrong, you could go into the sideboard and just have the other one sideboarded, like the J ruler kill board wipe one, right? Like, think about it that way. If that rumor is true and you can't sideboard, you have to walk in being like, which Divinity 3 rune am I playing? Because that I'm going to be committed to for the whole time. Like,
it also, like, I wonder if we can still side rulers, because it does seem like we should be able to. It doesn't, like, because it's just a divinity mechanic and not like the Scheherazade mechanic, I was hoping to be able to side rulers, and then, like, if you can't side your master rune, then, like, siding rulers becomes less of a thing, and that just sounds like you wouldn't be able to side rulers anymore if you can't side master runes. So,
well, I mean, you could. You would just give up a rune.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you just, like, Like if you're playing the 3-3-2-2-2, which is pretty good because then you only flip 4 runes a game. Like you could just main both master runes and then only have like one based on.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
I'm not sure if it will be the case in Worlds, but I actually personally think that like a combination of runes that only ever flips 4 might be better in New Frontiers.
I think most of my I think even in Cluster, most of my rune decks are 3-3-2-2-2.
I think the only ruler that cares is Adam, and that's because I think he.
Brunhild cares a little bit.
Brunhild cares because of
one.
She wants to get to 4.
Yeah, like
right. She wants to get to 4, right? She wants to get to 4, which is in this scenario. I think potentially Isis, and then definitely Adam wants to build his sideboard, his rune deck, so that he can get to 5 flipped, so that he can maximize his backside.
Sandstorm a lot. Like Sandstorm's really good in Isis, so I think Isis will always be 3-2-2-2-1, but. Most other decks.
Is Sandstorm a Divinity 1?
Sandstorm is 1, yeah. Most of the like 0 mana, like the ones that get discounted are the 1, except for the green one, which is 3 instead of 2. I don't know how they figured that out. But yeah, the white one, like the problem with trying to get to Divinity 4 is that like a couple of your runes are very situational. Like the board wipe one, like you don't want to use that just to get your your rune online. You just want to like wait until their board's big. So you will like want to save that one. Destroy target resonator, like. You want to save that one until like a big threat because it also kills J rulers. I think. Yeah,
it's target J/resonator.
So it's a pretty important card to hang on to, especially in like some matchups where like the J rulers can get really scary. So like you want that extra free rune just because like you want to save your situational runes instead of just flipping those over.
Depending on your build with her, like how fast you're trying to hit your big stuff, you're also going to want to use some of your runes pretty aggressively just to like smooth it out.
Yeah,
because like if you're ramping, the 0 mana revive a human rune is just undo someone killing your ramp creature.
Yeah, I am very excited to see kind of what comes out of it, and I think that I honestly think that if like we have a perfect world and really we see these CR changes, like if we're correct about what if the rumors are correct in what the CR changes is and what it brings to the table and how it really makes things more diverse, I honestly am like very, very excited for what World is potentially gonna be, because I definitely think that we can all attest that last year with the split format of New Frontiers and Draft, we were like, well, Draft is gonna be what Draft is, but New Frontiers is just gonna be Fox and Prisia. Ta-da! That's what happened. The year before that, it was Cluster, but really, you guys, and I'll have to admit, I did not see the Charlotte or Feasting deck coming. That was congrats to you guys who built it. That was a genius deck. It was definitely the best way to build that format, which was awesome. But like, if what we're seeing, if these kind of rules are coming into effect, if we're actually true about what the rumors are, if Hanzo Machines is in a deck, I honestly think that this could probably want to be one of the most diversive and like interesting and fun potential formats for a Worlds that we've kind of ever seen, because even Worlds 2015 was Blazer Knights or bust, you know what I mean? So
it was like Blazer Knights, Turbo Hook, Fox, Prisia, and so like when you compare those 3, it's not a very high bar to clear, so hopefully we do get above that.
I mean, yeah, it's not a very high bar to clear, but I think clearing that bar can still speak something positively about it, and like that is. We're getting there. We're
it's entirely possible that there's still just one deck that like just cleans up the rest of the field, but like it's too early to tell so far.
Yeah,
and we'll see.
I'm very excited.
Me too.
So let's then talk about. I mean, Cluster is really just this one event, right? I think I can't speak for Italy and Europe, but I definitely feel like the fact that they moved to Cluster only was because they were tired of New Frontiers with. Fairer and Severing Winds and everything else, so they chose.
They also moved to cluster only towards the end of every cluster, when the cluster itself is fairly fleshed out.
Sure. Like,
can we talk about the best format that we should actually all be playing though?
Is Cluster the best format? Is that what you're saying?
Conquest. Oh my god.
We'll come back to that.
I do want to talk about that.
So, we'll. Jeez, Conquest format. You and your dreams. So
not a dream.
With
this might be the best
New Frontiers, with the fact that we're moving into, I think, especially in the U.S., we can honestly say that New Frontiers is the format that we have to pay the most attention to, that we have to focus on the most, because it is what we play the most. So Day 2 is the losers tournament, the revenge tournament, is the first taste of what New Frontiers looks like. I think we can already attest that there are definitely some rulers coming from Ray Cluster that have a lot of capability in this format. Particularly right at the top of the list is probably Gil from Green Structure Deck, because he gets access to Mono Green and the Elemental package, which is surprisingly effective, especially in Cluster, as well as Infinite Lorites. And he now gets access to Ruin Stories, which I think is a legitimate thing for him being able to recycle potentially his Leaf Paladins without having to cycle them back into the deck quickly. Which I think helps speeds him up in a way that I think he kind of needed. Well, not necessarily that he kind of needed, but it's a speed up for him. Time Spinning Witch, a lot of power. She comes from there, especially being one of the decks that doesn't necessarily really care about being color locked because of her ability to use the idols very effectively. We've seen that have a lot of success in monocolored stone formats. I think Kirik still packs a lot of punch without having duels. We've talked about potentially going into a red-black style because he does have some duels in that sense. So there's some strength there. I think that Imul and Rhea, in terms of darkness stuff, can definitely not be discounted. So like those rulers from this last set are bringing in some heat. And so with that, we also have this new set. Those guys lose out on runes. They do not get access to the rune deck. They are stuck with just main deck support cards that are coming out of this and what they had before, whereas the Valhalla stuff guys are getting access to all that stuff from Ray Cluster, and they get access to the runes and their style there. So how do you guys feel about what New Frontiers might be shaping up to? Are you excited about it? What do you think can maybe pose a threat? What is that looking like for you?
I actually didn't get to play a couple games of New Frontiers. You can go ahead if you want to talk, Frank.
I haven't gotten a chance to play yet, but I've been like thinking on working on it some, both because I'm interested in it and both because I've been doing some like writing on it. And I mean, we're going with a banning of a problematic card and a rotation, so it's obviously going to be shaken up and exciting, which is fun for me. It's kind of the type of format I like to play in. I have a few decks that stand out to me. Of the ones you listed, I particularly like Time Spinning Witch. I like the black deck. I have no idea yet who is the best ruler for a black deck, whether like Lucifer's new stuff is good enough to put him there, or if like Rhea, or in all honesty, this may sound weird, but I do wonder if maybe Freyla, she loses next to nothing and can play the multicolored stuff quite well. So I actually think she's a possible contender, and that gives us an option for a black aggro deck. As far as Kirik, like this is purely like theory crafting at this point, but when I was working on that list I wrote about last week, the ISIS list, I actually almost like that better than I like other than the fact that obviously ground and air assault is still just the most insane turn one play. The consistency of that just seems so much for ISIS just seems so much higher.
Okay. The consistency
for ISIS.
Having like the rune deck instead of just
as a red deck and a burn deck. Yeah, like if you take away some of the green stuff that really like shored up what Kirik was doing with like having access to Sylvia as a third amazing 2-drop and having access to this really cheap green interaction to cover against miscalc and some of the stuff that was good against the deck, but could only be there in limited numbers. Like losing all of that stuff, he really just needs to rely on being a really good red deck, and then all of a sudden he's a red deck that just has like Piggy is his only source of swiftness in the deck. He has some burn, but like it's all pretty small ball, and like he has access to some of the same stuff as her, but like that like he doesn't have the same level of consistency with the burn spells. So all of a sudden his resonator base feels a little weaker than it was before to me, and so like outside of obviously the turn one like ground and air supremacy, he just feels like a weaker red deck than what other ones could be that don't need to play into strength counters. And I could just be wrong, but
so I haven't tested it all, but I'm a little nervous about what aggro looks like with Time Spinning Witch being popular. But like I'll let Ryan talk because he's actually tested the format.
Yeah, we got some Gil and Imul testing in, and then got to play like a game of, or just like built up a Ray deck and got to play a game of it, but like didn't really get any real results to talk about. So one of the most important things to think about with the cluster meta is that we're losing Scheherazade, which means that we're losing free access to Last Days of the Palace Dragonoid, which means that Rhea just like goes way up in popularity because of that. Like one of the things that really kept her as a problem was that she just couldn't actually beat like the Sherry decks, even though I think she probably could contest with Gil a little bit. And it's kind of said that you need Lorite to be able to compete because Time Spinning Witch is just such a popular deck, and like Gil just has infinite Lorites, which is really cool. But Ray does the job because Mosasaurus can't target stones if you have a flip 0. So,
oh yeah, very much have experienced that. Playing Time Spinning Witch and a Ray resolves, and then it flips over, and you go, well, this was we had a good time. We had a good time here.
Like, a lot of ways to solve that though. Like you still have Shea's Return, which is if
oh yeah, there's definitely ways around it, but you have to
answer it like immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, like immediate answer it again when you cast it.
Several 1-mana ways to answer it, right?
Yeah, they just have to have it as soon as you play it, and then like not let it inverse. But one of the things that makes Imul really cool is you just flip Imul and then you get it off the top, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's already a 0. So I was playing Imul. Some of like just the cards that I think are most important that are coming from the new set into Cluster. For white, you've got Acolyte of the Sun, which is the mana dork. You've got Heir Valkyrie of Mercy, which is the 3-mana get a 2-drop back from your graveyard. And you've got Skuld, Valk of the Future, which is the 2-mana guy that when it attacks, it produces white mana. And
you're really not about to say Look of Corruption?
I said white cards first. I'm gonna get there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was talking about white cards because I was talking about Imul. That's the deck that I actually like played the most. So like having a white mana dork in Imul is just like absolutely insane. And then having a 3-drop that like gets back your 2-drops, like Ray is going to be one of your 2-drops. I put Skuld in the deck just because I wanted more 2-drops to get back with the Valkyrie. And then you still got Adam Seacart, which is going to beat any aggro or mid-range deck if you play like 3 of that card. You've still got what else was in this deck? Other 3-drops. Mephistopheles is just like a super good card because Abdul just rotated, so suddenly like Mephistopheles come in. Gil doesn't get their Leaf Paladin anymore. That entire deck just like practically turns off. Like I was just building boards of like turn 1 Acolyte, turn 2 Mephistopheles, turn 3 Flip my Ruler. Oh look, it's a Ray into a 0. You don't have any enter abilities. You have to target my guys twice to kill them. Like it was pretty nuts. Like I think Gil probably ends up siding Black Tears, but it gets in like the whole like back and forth format. And then yeah, well, Imul gets to play like False Peace, Deadly Pox because you just have mana dorks and you can untap them on your opponent's turn. You got Flourishing Hope, Burgeoning Despair, just like a lot of really good stuff in like the white black.
Playing those Magic Stones of Hope.
Yeah.
I've actually been surprised in my playtesting with her when playing in a slower, like a single color format, how actually like very helpful Magic Stone of Hope is, just from the perspective of that it becomes an inverse on the flip, because it's just oh now she's bigger just naturally. Like that is like very relevant, I think.
So like it's huge. It's not just relevant like back when we still had access to duels. Like I took her up to Minneapolis and I still snuck I think 2 copies into my Stone deck just because having her be that big was impactful enough that I was willing to make my Stone deck less consistent just to give that option.
It gets to a point where you don't want to kill her because then she'll flip again and get another card, but you have to kill her because she's like an 11/11 that flies and is beating you in the face.
One of the things that I think it's really fun, and I think that decks are still going to do it even with Imul. I still think you consider the idea of like probably now, since you don't have access to duels as much, maybe just play 1, maybe you have to play 2, or just playing a couple of the village, the diversity town.
I would like to, but it's just like when you draw it, you can't.
It's kind of like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if people don't play it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if people tried to be cute and like play it, because then suddenly you're just like, hey, what's up? All of my guys have flying and drain. What's up?
I think at the moment, if there's a deck that's going to get cute with that card, it's going to be Time Spinning Witch.
Potentially,
true. For sure.
Like, I've experienced the cuteness of Time Spinning Witch Diversity Town, and then it makes me sad.
But yeah, I do want to talk about Black real quick because like when you talk about Rhea, like one of the things that Rhea gets to do is just play Lapis as a Darkstorm on turn 1, and even though they get to pick the cards, like that's 2 less cards in your hand, so like the Azazel turns on quicker. You've also got Glint of Insight with Remnant, which is probably going to hit 2 ways to just get them down to like no cards in hand. And then Azazel is just like a 9/10 flyer that says draw a card. You've still got Ray, you've still got Joan d'Arc if you want to play it. I don't know how many
resonators. You can also play that deck if you're hurting for draw power necessarily. You can also play Faith in the Darkness, especially as we're going into a monocolor format.
I want to play it, but there's just not enough like 2 or less drops in Black that really like warrant it. We were like looking for room for it. I mean, yeah, you want to be a control deck. Like you want a lot of discard stuff.
Yeah, I hear you for sure.
Yeah.
Disgrace
Knight probably finds a way in the deck just because it's like a 1-mana, like get an 8/7, and you can just kind of like just get aggressive meaty boards with like 0 Disgrace Knight and Azazel, and you didn't pay a lot of mana for it. You have your ruler flip. You've got plenty of mystery counters now because you've got 4 stones that just get a mystery counter, and you have some of the most premium removal in the entire game. So I think like Ray is actually gonna be really good. Just in general.
Have you tested it all with any copies of Grim of the Crimson Moon in the list?
In Imul, I did.
No, in Raya.
In Raya, no, we didn't have it in there.
Oh, you should really try him in Raya.
Probably, yeah.
Like that was in my, like, I think I ended up with like 3 or 4 of him in my list I took to Gen Con, and he was just insane. And that was pre-losing final battle. So now like we're getting some new
final battle. Super excited about that.
Single target removal is going to be something more relevant, and we've been talking about good white and black removal quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely experienced that as well. That being into an era of good singleton removal is going to be very nice.
I think like on the list of cards that get like way better when the set rotates, or specifically when Scheherazade leaves and all of the resonators stop having quick cast, is Shea's Return.
Yep.
Like I think that Shea's Return is like a wildly powerful card that sees not as much play as it should have last format, because like all the resonators had quick cast, so like returning them to your hand and then like they just play it immediately is like not quite as good. But I feel like especially in time spinning, which that's going to be a card that we're going to really need to start considering a lot more. And that's part of the reason I don't really like.
They already play 4. They have the Thunderlords card that says Shea's Return plus draw a card, right?
Right. But I think that they're going to play both of them.
That's possible.
And,
yeah, for sure. I was already playing both in my time spinning.
I don't really like super mid-range creatures like Grim. That's probably why I wouldn't be playing it. But like it's good in Imul when they'll just get the ability immediately.
Yeah.
Wait, which Grim?
The 3-drop Grim.
Okay.
Frank has an argument.
It's like he listed. Oh, sorry.
I was saying like
super mid-range. He listed super mid-range creature. So I'm like, is he talking about the 4-drop that just like puts another card from your graveyard back in your hand? Because I thought I was the only human being who liked that card.
So moving on to blue, like I think Lancelot's probably the best card in the entire new set, and it's difficult to say if it's New Frontiers playable because I think that Lancelot is only like broken when it's backed up by maintenance, which means that you have to play a blue Divinity Ruler, or else you just can't flip your ruler, right? There's no reason, even if it's not color locked, like what other ruler do you play in your mono blue deck besides like
Hanzo.
Just Loki or Arthur, right? Like you don't play Hanzo because there are other non-divinity rulers running around, right? So like you just have to play like Loki or Arthur, and then it's like, okay, you have like Lance maintenance, but there's like way more target removal because like the Raya deck, the Imul deck, because there's so much more things that just like deal with it. Yeah, just like so much removal.
And
so
protection from removal, weirdly enough. Yeah. Like white, we're talking about white with like, flourishing help. Like, okay.
Yep. Got him. Yeah, Flourishing of Burning Despair is disgusting against machines. So I don't think blue's going to do anything. Like, I don't think we have a single card from blue that's going to be played in New Frontiers.
Gets its time in the sun and cluster and then dies.
The one man, I think it's called Gretel. It's like when you awaken, you draw a card. That's like the only thing I can think of the time spin which might play. And then in green, Forest Meditation. You guys know what that card is? It's
the Spirit Stone shenanigans.
That nonsense. So like Chamimi's Master Rune cannot be chased to, and then Karara can't be canceled. Can't be canceled is kind of irrelevant because anything that's playing, well, it can't be Fair spelled, so that's important. But it can be Winds of Salvation, which is kind of dumb. But Chamimi's Elephant Rush cannot be chased to, so it can't even be canceled by Winds of Salvation. And that's just 3 10/10s. And there's a lot of removal, but it's not like board wipe removal. So I think that Chamimi might be a deck.
Yeah, the five rulers from Valhalla that I think have the most potential in New Frontiers have been Isis, Loki for machines, if you're going to play machines, because I think that in that format the cost reduction for Merlin is surprisingly, I think, more relevant in New Frontiers. So Loki, I definitely think that Lucifer has a lot of potential as the black deck, as we've talked about before. Chamimi, like I said, Isis, and Brunhild. As much as I love Adam Sleichhardt, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore that little bunny. Yeah, I think the lore behind him is great. I loved his flavor that they introduced with him. I just, there's nothing in it that makes me want to go, why don't I just play Imul instead? Like, everything that he's like bringing to the table, I'm like, this is just really great for Imul, so let's just do that. Hey, my friend's online on Steam. Cool, welcome.
Oh, excellent.
The person's playing Dota 2. But yeah, so like those are the 5 from New Valhalla that I think have a chance of making an impact of New Frontiers. And I will say that it actually is kind of nice to think that there are 5 rulers coming out of this new set that I think can have a chance in New Frontiers. Keep in mind, this is just with one set. We haven't seen anything yet, but like that still warms my heart to think that there are 5, one for each color, a ruler that I do think actually has a place potentially in New Frontiers.
Well, I guess on machines, like I think it might not be quite as bad as you're worried about, as far as like as far as it being unplayable New Frontiers, because while it is sort of competing to be the blue deck with Time Spinning Witch, and they very much built the two to where there's like sort of a clear split between what they're doing. Like Time Spinning Witch is Awakening Chance, and while Loki's Awakening Everything, they've only given Loki Resonators with Awakening. And so there hasn't been like a real lot of overlap there. It is also true though that like machines, like sort of what happened with the cluster constructed is because like so much of the set had to be dedicated to runes, there's not a lot of non-creatures in the set. And so one of the things that will be interesting to see is like, you know, in the set, it's like machines is just a mass of the ideal resonators, like maybe an addition and then your runes. And then in New Frontiers, you actually get to do, okay, do I want some Keys' calls? Do I want some more other things that lets like some more cheap interaction to go around my machines?
I do want to touch on what you just said about how there's not a lot of non-resonator stuff in the format. Like when we're talking about Hanzo machines, like just to wrap your head around how like impossible it is to deal with the Lancel with the Master Rune backing it up, there are exactly 2 chants in each color that are not runes in the entire set, except for blue, who only has 1, and it's Erendite, which is actually fucking playable. But like outside of that, like if you play a resonator to kill Lancelot, it's possibly getting Erendited, or it's just going to die to Lancelot. If you play a rune, it's going to get Master Rune. So the only things that you have is like literally 2 cards per color, and some of them aren't playable. Black has the best 2 because it's Life-Severing Blade and Look of Corruption, but it's just like it's a very resonator-heavy set because of the structure decks and the runes, obviously.
Yep. Ryan, any other thoughts about New Frontiers? You were kind of talking about blue. We already talked a little bit about green. We already talked a little bit about white.
Black. I played against pandas too, and pandas felt pretty fun. Like pandas just have a lot of like really random nonsense going on because like they're just this giant mid-range deck. But I felt like Imel was actually like able to go like more mid-range and then have more unbreakable boards, and then because of the life gain stabilization from actually having Imel, she could just like pick apart the pandas one by one. You don't get like rose quartz because of a flip Mephistopheles. Like Imel just like blocks stuff, gains life, flips again, all kinds of fun stuff. So
I have
no love for pandas. Sorry.
So I have a question for you guys, and we had this conversation in our chat, and you all ripped me to shreds, and it was fine, and I didn't cry at all. But another ruler that I think does bear some contention and potentially talking about is Welser. And I say that from the perspective of it might not be good. I'm prefacing that, but he is a ruler that brings to the table filtering, which I think is kind of relevant. And he does have, as far as I remember, he has the ability to play Wicked Spirits on both sides for fire. Or does it not carry over? No, it doesn't carry over. But Welser himself is kind of a powerhouse on the backside anyway.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
No, if you've reached the point of flipping, you should be fine.
You should be winning the game. So we're entering a single stone color format for the most part. There are some dual colors, but those dual colors are colors that Welser likes using anyway. And we are entering. He doesn't necessarily care too much, and honestly, there is some power that comes from the combo synergies of the Wicked Spirits with the crests. So that being said, knowing that we're entering this format where everyone else has a single color and it's not just going to be green as far as the eye can see, what do you guys think about this idea of Welser? What do you guys think about what he's capable of, or will he see any play? Will he see any kind of resurgence and success? Or is it just that the having to rely on the crest is just too much of a limitation for him?
I will say this, it might just be that I'm biased by the versions of Welser I played, because like I've actually enjoyed Welser some of the previous New Frontiers. Like I took him to States and took second at States with him. Like I played him and like he had some powerful things he did, but every version of the deck I liked was built specifically to very consistently flipped. And I don't think you can do that with like, you have this flexibility you're talking about, but you lose the ability to really make sure that you have the 3 crests and ready to flip when it's time. And that was sort of what really kept him going. It was almost like it was like I think I described this to Brendan this way once, but it almost felt like you were playing like Tron in Modern, where it's like, okay, you're hitting these specific 3 things in your early turns, and then bam, you're suddenly playing something that's just so much bigger than what anyone else is doing, and you can't really do that with the cards we have right now.
Okay.
And so like you're back to like you're trying to really play the Majins on their own, but then you're really trying to line up all of these like different 2-card, like you're trying to line up some selection of these 5 2-card pairs, and that's really hard to make like anything but just like random.
Fair enough. There were some consistency pieces that did get added to him, I think. Unfortunately, the problem becomes that he doesn't have he kind of loses about that there's no dual colors. The idea of Goddard Welser is actually surprisingly helpful in helping him find his crests, because there are 2 cards, one of which we're losing to rotation and one of which is harder to cast because loss of dual stones, which is Kage's Moonbeam Butterfly and Restoration. I think Restoration is the other one. Restoration is not the one that's rotating, but something that I've been doing in my playing with the Welser is, you do Goddard Welser to then follow it up with a Kaguya's Moonbeam Butterfly or a Restoration, and then have that be the card that Welser clones. So then you get to go get 2 crests out of your deck, or you get to get 2 crests straight to the field. And that has been very, very powerful in terms of helping to get that consistent having crests on field to be able to flip. The problem with Kage's Moonbeam is that it's rotating, which is sad. The problem with Restoration is that it's red-white, which then becomes much weirder to cast. I still think, having played, it's kind of one of those decks where if we see some cards that help red, I don't necessarily want to say have draw power, but like help him in terms of consistency for finding those pieces where he doesn't necessarily have to rely on Wicked Spirits, because I actually do think that there are some pretty strong effects on Wicked Spirits. Surprisingly enough, Fire Majin burning your opponent for 6 for a 1-drop, well, that's also a 4/4, can actually close out games. And then Prismatic Flame is gross. Like, that card is, like, if you can stick crests on it, you can almost single-handedly use Prismatic Flame to win the game based on the state of the board. But, like, I do agree with Frank that there is some kind of randomness that comes with playing Welser. So I'm kind of hoping that red or black, so we play the, like, kill yourself stone, the null stone, helps Welser fill in the gaps, I guess, so it doesn't necessarily seem as much of a crapshoot. Because I definitely think that if he can figure that out, he definitely has a place. But that is kind of the threshold, the gate that I think he is hiding behind right now.
I think Welser suffers from the problem of being red, and the fact that he has to play red stones to get these fire cards. Like, if he was like black, and then he could like produce anything with black mana, then like, okay, black, you have a lot of good cards, but there are just so few good red cards because all of the good red cards are Keurig exclusive, and there's just like not like, I'm looking through all of the red cards right now. Like, what can Welser like the Resonator combo with? It's like, actually, you just want to combo with the black cards because you want to play the 4 black dual stones. To be completely honest. Like, his crests are decent, like blue crest, draw a card. Okay, you basically mana ramping when you play that, especially with like Prismatic Flame. The white crest requires you to have a board. Like, what resonators are you playing? It's like the Wicked Spirits. They're kind of expensive and meaty. And again, like, Ray is going to kill your 3-drops for 1 mana. Gil's going to kill your 3-drops for 1 mana. Imul's going to like Adam Seacart them down. Just like stuff like that. I just feels like I'm trying to think like what the 40 cards for this deck's going to look like. Like you said, with rotation, kind of like gutting a lot of what it's doing. Maybe if we just give the set a bit more time, like Red will get other stuff, and I think that will help a lot. It's just a matter of like, is he going to contend with ISIS? And I'm not sure the answer to that one. So, yeah. But
if I can give 2 closing comments, I guess, like to cover what I was saying before, like part of the reason why I feel like he loses a lot in this is that, well, like some people have played him like a little differently. I feel like he's really strongest when you lean heavily on black and blue crests and can use your stone base to cover whether or not you manage to get all of your other 3 colors.
I would
so like
agree.
You have a red stone base with other, and just losing that does a lot to him. And the other problem is what really makes him strong is that he is simultaneously sort of a built-in field wipe that you have access to, and a really big body that puts in a free spell. I would note, I just described Brunhild to a T with no hoops to jump through.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, she's a 12/12 flyer with a built-in cheap field wipe, and she resurrects when you play. So, like, the Welser deck is sort of this really janky Brunhild deck that's a little bigger, but she just doesn't have to be janky. And so, I
Yeah.
guess that's part of the reason why I'm less excited. Is everything I wanted to do there has been moved to a
Brunhilde?
better color.
Yeah, fair enough. Brandon, you have any thoughts?
Competitively, Welser has like next to zero saving graces. The deck is extremely inconsistent. It has almost nothing good going for it. Every deck does everything it's trying to do better. If you want to be going fast, there's no way it'll set up before it kills you. Time spinning will set up its combo first. Skill will flip and take the game out of control first. And will even set up a board that Welser won't be able to flip and kill. The only interesting part about Welser that I think is kind of cool is that Prismatic Flare is actually a little bit better than we originally gave it credit for. But even then, Prismatic Flare doesn't really kill anything above 6/6 too easily, so like the mid-range decks will beat it. And even PL, which is a 1-drop from Keurig, will still get out of range of Prismatic Flare. So I think just every deck has a way to beat it. Everything it's trying to do it's done better by someone else. Yeah, I don't really think.
Yeah, I think he's unfortunately, unless we see something really good come out of black or come out of red, that kind of helps. Like you said, I definitely agree that from what we're seeing, it definitely unfortunately feels like there are other colors that just do it better. And losing the consistency pieces to help him not necessarily care as much about finding those crests is pretty damning, unfortunately. He is very fun to play, though. He is very, very fun to play. He is the feature match for this week, and I definitely had an absolute blast playing this deck. It was the Welser list.
If we're talking about like playing at locals, hands down, anyone who hasn't tried him and has access to him, I would suggest trying it.
You're gonna have a list this week. You're gonna have a list this week that is tons of fun to play.
I thought about a Welser deck that's like a little bit very weird, and that plays like Advent of the Demon King to judge Welser, and so you get like the black-red dual stones, and like maybe play a couple of just like natural black stones, and like that sounds really gross, but then you get to just play this like red-black control deck, then eventually judge Welser, and like his backside is pretty powerful if you actually do get to it in a timely manner. Almost even more inconsistent than the crests. So
let's not forget the black red stone is, I believe, base black. You have to pay 200 life to get access to the red, which is your primary color. So like you kind of kill yourself super quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's see. Seeing if we have any kind of other questions, because we've kind of hit on all of our topics for tonight.
There's a question here about Wanderer. If you want to talk about that.
And then there's poor Pandora, who never got to see play ever. Yeah, well, golems were a bad idea for a mechanic because they weren't activate abilities. Anything interesting that you guys think happens in Wanderer with the new set? Brandon, the most degenerate combo ever that we need to please nerf happens in Wanderer.
Oh man, you know what's so funny is I posted that combo and then later realized that it was like actually even more cards than it needed to be. Because I posted it to be like a joke, so I like kept like adding cards to make the combo more ridiculous. But then like at the end, like the batons are actually completely unnecessary. Like the combo still works without them, which like actually adds to the joke. So I won't say it was an accident, but it was an accident.
That's excellent.
For those of you who are wondering, this is the combo that is like ridiculous Grubalesta's secret technique, having 2 Mooj darts make them play into Magic Conductor's Baton, into Infinite Will, and to Vlad your opponent to death. Like, what?
Blue Planet, don't forget that. That's my favorite part of the whole
you
combo.
need Blue Planet,
Blue Planet
unsealed. You need Blue Planet unsealed. To be
just playing mono green stones in your Wanderer deck. Like, it was ridiculous.
It was very silly.
Yeah, Wanderer, what happened? We lost Lumia. I don't care about that format. There's nothing that draws me to that format anymore. I have no reason to live. Epic Stories is all left.
Until we ban her in Epic Stories.
Epic Stories format.
Just play Just play Lumia Priscia in Epic Stories and call the deck Banned Together.
Oh my god.
We're getting the band back together.
What else happened in Wanderer? They banned Playdead.
Playdead got banned because they didn't want to mess with the Cthulhu.
They banned Apollo to try and minimize the effective awakening.
Banning all the Regalia, really.
Bloody
Stop
Moon.
Time Spinning Witch.
Stop the turn 1 Bloody Moon.
Yeah, but also fuck Apollo, so I'm fine. Like, I would be fine with Apollo getting banned even without Bloody Moon.
I have a theory.
Like, 0 mana save a guy from dying kind of thing.
I think that they are just going to ban cards in Wanderer until Reflect is the best deck. I think that's what they want to do.
It's coming back. Reflect is coming back.
Every time a deck is like better than Reflect, they're going to ban a piece until we can only play Reflect in Wanderer.
This is my ideal situation, so I'm fine with that. Why did they ban Orb? Bring Orb back. Come on.
Right, unban Orb.
No, that's the last piece. That's the last piece. It has to be, we've banned everything from every deck. We have to ban.
Okay, they banned Orb, but you got Morgiana back.
Yeah.
Oh, they did unban Morge.
Yeah, so you can still choose from top 3 and then tuck 1.
All right, this is the Wanderer combo, right? Gretel is a human, and enter abilities trigger from anywhere. So you go turn 1 Cheshire Cat, turn 2 Gretel, sack for Adam Brawley, 0 mana, get back a human, get back Gretel, like double Gwyber. Like you got some nonsense going on with Gretel, the 2 mana rune that brings back a guy, and then Adam Brawley Gwyber decks. Like I don't know what rule it's gonna be.
Gwyber and Wanderer is that Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm is destroy a dragon for red with upside.
You know what's better than that? When you Alice is castling that Gwyber as they try and kill it, and suddenly it's a goddamn Captain Hook. That's what I look for. And I've got 18 goddamn mana because the Gretel has come back like 4 times. I'm gonna play Last Drop, bring it back. I'm gonna play this 3 mana.
Are we throwing out Wild Wanderer stuff? Because if they finally put some of the red stuff under control, I'm gonna call out Brandan and say like, they finally made Kaguya 4 playable. I'm ready to lock people out forever.
Oh my god.
Do you have any idea how much fun it is to 5 challenges someone like 4 times in the game and they stubbornly refuse to give up?
Yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
It's pretty fun.
That's what you played at Providence,
goodness.
right?
Yeah, it is. Deck was amazing.
Let me see if we've gotten a new CR. 1 second.
Please, dear God.
Louise. Force of Will.
Do it live.
Oh,
and
we're doing the CR live?
Nothing yet. We haven't seen the new CR live yet, so we'll have to continue waiting. But that is actually going to wrap it up for us for tonight. Ask any last questions you have here before we wrap things up and head out. It has been, hopefully, I mean, I can't imagine that we don't have the CR by next week. Just as a heads up, because of us people traveling, we will have Teachers Lounge next week. Let me make sure I have the calendar right here.
Need a special Japan episode.
We'll have Teachers Lounge next week, but not the following week, and probably not the follow. So like we'll probably have 2 weeks off unless we do a special Teachers Lounge live in Japan.
Why wouldn't we do it on the 15th? Or is one of us traveling on the 15th?
We do it on the 10th. I will be the 17th. I'm 17th one. I think Ryan's already in Japan, and 2 just for prep for me for traveling and stuff. Maybe we'll do a Japan episode of the Teachers Lounge, which would be cool. Having us all sit in the same room, so we'll have to see. That probably won't be live, just because of timing wise and stuff. But we'll have a conversation.
I do have a question for you. Actually,
I have an answer.
Are you going? Since you're gonna be like at the venue anyway, are you gonna be streaming the Austin Powers World Championship?
No.
You're not? I don't know. All right, I'll have to record it so that we can get that to the viewers.
Well, I guess, when is it taking place?
I believe it's the Sunday night, like after everything is wrapped up with the
including bingo and stuff.
Yeah. Including bingo after everything.
If they let me, I tell you what, if they let me keep the space, we'll stream it.
All right. So for those of you listening, there's a card game I think that came out in 1999 that's Austin Powers themed. And there's like 16 to 20 of the world's players from all over the world that are getting together to play this game. We've never played it before. I still don't know the rules. We're opening a structure deck and then drafting, and then we're going to play this game. So World Championship number 2. Keep your eyes peeled.
So there's that for you. Skull Reaper, who won the meme contest? We still have to decide. There weren't a ton of entries, but we will be giving away the prize for that. I hopefully will announce that later this week.
We didn't talk about Conquest. I kind of want to.
Oh my god!
We can talk about Conquest next. That's the hint for. We'll talk about Conquest next week.
Hold on, I have one suggestion.
Sure.
So we haven't done a goofy question in a while.
Sure.
And this segues with Conquest. What if our goofy question is, given any options whatsoever, what would you make the world's format next year?
Conquest. My answer is Conquest.
I want my answer to be Conquest. You can't steal my answer.
Hold on. I've got this really great format. Hold on.
Okay.
It's called. Hear me out. It's called Conquest.
All right.
Never heard it before. What is it about? Could you explain it to me? I'm just.
Brandon's version of Conquest is way better than my Conquest. Why don't you?
Okay. Brandon, why don't you explain what Conquest is?
It's fine. Ryan's version of Conquest is much better than my version.
Okay, my version of Conquest, personally. So obviously, like Hanzo Machines is terrifying, and we're all afraid of it. So what if you guys have played Hearthstone or Lightseekers, you have to, because all the world's players get a full set of the deck. Like we don't have to worry about like bringing cards and stuff and getting access to these cards, which is like normally the barrier of entry for this kind of format. Is you bring 3 decks to your tournament, and then you reveal your 3 rulers and the corresponding decks. What was it?
3 decks that don't have sideboards. Sorry.
Yeah, no sideboards, just 3 decks. And then you reveal your 3 rulers, and then you get to ban one of your opponents, and then you play a best of 3 with the remaining 2 decks. So if you are terrified of Hanzo machines, you can just ban the Hanzo deck. And then if you find a way to beat the Hanzo deck or whatever, you can like actually still take advantage of it. I don't think you can, but if you're one of those magical people who can just beat machines every game, then cool. But this would let you showcase more decks on the stream. You would get to see, like, instead of just everyone like having whatever they think the best deck is with the best matchup spread, suddenly like there's a whole nother layer that goes into metagaming where you're bringing 2 decks and you have to win with both of them in order to win the best of 3. If you assume that your machine deck gets banned, obviously. And I just think that would have been like the absolute coolest solution to be able to fix the Worlds format with the advent of machines just being unbeatable. If they color lock runes, it's kind of annoying for white because they don't get to use their stone as much, but really it's like, it's not too big of a deal, and I'm fine with that solution as well. But that was like my solution, and it feels like it's too close to Worlds for them to try and implement that, but I think it would have been cool. I hope they do it next year.
I complain so much when like we get information last second, like at like last year when they changed the draft format the day before Worlds, I was like pretty irritated. But if we show up at Worlds and Friday night they say, just kidding, it's Conquest, I will not complain.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be fine.
No, you sit down. They sit down for Worlds player meeting, and they go, "We have an announcement. We're gonna give you all a 2-hour extension. We're now playing Conquest."
I will hug EG. I will literally I will be so happy if they do that.
I was actually talking to Jeff about it, and he's like, "Yeah, you don't think we could do it?" But like, he said that AG plays Hearthstone, and he said that AG actually like brought up talking about Conquest format before, and that seems like a bad idea for like Force of Will in general because you got to bring 3 decks to a goddamn tournament. But like for this tournament, like if we could get him on board, I would be.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it sounds like everybody's on board for Conquest. Frank, what format would you pick Worlds to be?
Oh, I was just going to make Worlds split again with
draft.
Like, okay, beware. I'm suggesting a very long day because I'm suggesting a minimum of 9 rounds for day 1. I want to do 3 rounds of. I want to do 3 rounds of block, 3 rounds of sealed, 3 rounds of New Frontiers for the day 1. And then I have no idea which of those 3 we do for top 8, but one
draft.
of those 3 for
hit
top
all
8.
the formats.
I don't feel like with a split format we need to hit sealed and draft at the
nope,
same
we're
thing.
doing it.
Wanderer top 8.
Epic Stories top 8.
Epic Stories top 8. Yes.
Please no.
Yes.
I really don't want like,
Wanderer top 8.
I love the suggestion, but I
4.
really don't want to find it.
There it is. It's Wanderer top 8. If you make top 4, you draft, and then if you get it to finals, you play Epic Stories for the finale. There it is. We've
so
fixed the format,
My
boys.
suggestion is just roulette
The
wheel
official.
all format.
We should make an official Teachers Lounge format. 3-3-3 top 8. Top 4 finals Epic Stories. We know where it's at. Oh goodness. Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments and stuff. What you guys think about what's going on, getting ready for Worlds, and excited for the CR. What decks you guys are most excited for, both in and out of New Frontiers. And be sure to go check out all of our support down below if you want to join us on the Patreon. It's a huge help, as well as checking out some cool swag.
Format?
What?
Do I get a format?
You said Conquest.
Well, okay, I'm not still Ryan's. We can't have the same answer.
Okay, Conquest.
If you got one, then.
Conquest is better than mine, and Frank's is better than mine. But Magic the Gathering did an invitational once where they did the actual best format for any card game ever, and it takes so much effort to set up that no one will ever actually run it. But it's called Duplicate Sealed, and it is such an incredible format. So basically, unlike regular Sealed, where you get 6 packs to work with, you're going to get 12 packs to work with. So double the amount of packs, except all the packs are pre-opened and pre-recorded, and every single person in the room has the exact same sealed pool. So what you get to do is really incredible because A, no one has any advantage because everyone has the exact same pool, and B, you can kind of figure out what the meta is like in your own deck. So like if you come up with what you think the best deck is, you can think like how many people also think this is the best deck, and can I beat like the little like mini meta that occurs in my packs? And so it's this really like this like one step ahead of thinking kind of format, but like you also have just a shit ton of packs, so then like there's also some just like sealed deck building skill involved, and it is a ridiculously cool format. I've never actually got to like play it myself because like the setup for the tournament organizer is like absolutely ludicrous to like get all of these identical sealed pools. But that's what I would choose if I could do anything.
That sounds like it'd be great to do for like online tournament for Force of Will or something like that.
Yeah, I'll share it to Jeff. We'll see if Jeff will pick it up for one of his tournament series.
You just like do a stream of like a box opening, and then whatever your first 12 packs are, you're like, this is what we're doing a tournament with, boys. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what we can do with
neat.
that. I'll see if we can host something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
You know what I mean.
So there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back next week, and until then, this has been the Teacher's Lounge featuring myself, Jeremy Franklin, and as always, Ryan Miles.
Outro. Boom. Got him.
Brandan Bremont.
Unyielding Dragon Lord Ragnarok.
Who is actually Ayu. Weirdly, that story was weird. And Frank Glosser.
Woo!
And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Woo.